I'm the underdog with the heroic heart. I'm Eric Jones Jr. I have to keep pushing for my kids. If I give up, what's that leave them with? Nothing. I have to understand that it's bigger than me. That it's not about me when I wake up and go to work. It's not about me when I'm reading and educate myself. It's not about me when I'm practicing my speeches. It's not about me. It's about my family.
Hey, you're now tuned in to Underdog Talk. I'm your host, Eric Jones Jr., the underdog with the heroic heart, and I have conversations with successful underdogs. And today I have Earl Kapule. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, how's it going, Eric? I'm doing great. Thank you for your invitation.
No problem. And thank you for accepting. Thank you for reaching out. Before we get into our conversation, today's sponsor is brought to you by Christian Dewan, Positive Energy Through Your Clothes. It's my personal brand, me and my son. If you go to the website, christiandewan.com, use the promo code Underdog Talk, and Underdog is UNDERDAWG. You'll get 15% off. We have t-shirts, we have hoodies, we have sweaters. So go check us out. You get 15% off. You use that promo code. All right. So we're going to get into today's conversation. My man, Earl, he grew up in Hawaii. So I know the weather out there was beautiful. But tell us about your childhood and how you grew up.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of times when I tell people I'm from Hawaii, a lot of times the first thing they think is like, oh, it must have been beautiful, it must have been amazing. And it is, in a sense of the weather's great, oceans are beautiful. But my household, I grew up in a neighborhood that was, below average. So we're in a poor neighborhood. My father was an iron worker. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. And I had a few siblings. And my father, he worked super hard. And he had a lot of trauma throughout his life. So he would come home from work, drink with his friends, and at the end of the night, on most nights, would be just wasted. And then he would get into a state of anger and start abusing my mother and my siblings. And so I just remember being in my room, hiding, just listening to the screaming and the yelling from everybody in the house. And so it got crazy. That was happening for a while. We also couldn't pay bills on time. So oftentimes we didn't have electricity, didn't have water. As far as food goes, bare minimum with eggs, maybe some canned goods, but very, again, on the poverty line. One of my brothers in and out of prison. He's still in prison to this day. He's been in prison for over 20 years now. And then at some point around middle school is when both of my parents became drug addicts and they could no longer take care of me. So I went to live with my sister. But that was childhood. It was just a huge roller coaster.
Understand. Yeah, that does, like, when most people, you think of Hawaii, you think of beautiful, but you're from there and it's like, yeah, it wasn't so beautiful for me. That's kind of like almost anywhere, kind of like
Sure.
people that live in LA,
Right.
or wherever. You're like, oh yeah, oh no, you didn't live here. You don't, get away from here. But everybody goes through their struggles. But
Right.
so you had somewhat kind of almost typical over here. Well, I guess Hawaii's not like Hawaii's a U.S., right? It's a state, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Just making. So like I grew up in Michigan City, Indiana, so that's a small town. So I've seen stuff that like you've said with abusive dad. Not me personally, but just knowing it, poor neighborhood.
Yep.
Little to eat. I definitely understand those struggles, but I didn't have drug addict parents, but I seen people, or there was people in my family. So for you being a kid, and then you're the youngest, correct?
Yes.
So you being a kid, you being the youngest, like, how did that take a toll on you when you went to school? Like, you kind of got to you got a fucked up household, and then you got to go to school. Like, oh, okay, all right, everything's okay. But so how was that as a kid, like going to school, having friends and different stuff like that? But then going home was like, man, I really don't want to go home.
Yeah. So what I found was, well, now looking back, when I was in school, I think that's the reason I was the quiet one. You didn't get a lot of talking out of me unless you're really close to me. and I didn't get close to a lot of people. So that caused me to be more quiet in school. Definitely, because again, I was poor, didn't have, really nice clothes and stuff. So in middle school was made fun of for that reasons. And then whenever it was after school, I would try to stay out of the house as much as possible. And I think it was because I knew the energy that my dad had with all the trauma he had. So did my best to stay out of his way and just play with my friends as long as possible. And then the cool thing was they did allow me to stay out pretty late in most cases. But yeah, it was just a constant, trying to find a place to feel safe and not get in the way.
I understand. See, so it's kind of different for me. Like I wanted to stay away from the house because I lived with my mom and my sister. It was girls. Like I don't want to do what y'all doing. I'm gonna stay outside. I'm gonna play. Basketball was my thing, so that's normally what I was doing. So I would stay away from home just because I didn't want to be at home with the girls. But I understand like you not wanting to stay home. So you said you moved in with your sister. How did that go? Was it like because I know like siblings, I'm an older sibling, so I know kind of how an older sibling could be, but was it like cool older sibling, or was she was like, hey, you gotta go to school, you gotta do this, she made sure you got on your stuff?
Yeah. So when we were living together in the same house, as I was growing up, my father would make her take me with her to a lot of places. So if she wanted to go to the mall, go to her friend's house, or whatever, a lot of times my dad would say, well, you're going to take her with you just so, don't do anything stupid. So in a sense, she was already kind of raising me from a young age. And so that's why I felt drawn to her during that time when I found out they were doing drugs. So she took me in, did an amazing job. She was like my second mom, and so she took care of me, got me through high school. Even afterwards, I lived with her for several years. We jumped from place to place, but yeah, she did really good providing for me and, taking my parents' place for that time being.
Shout out to your sister. That's
Yeah.
dope because that's a big responsibility. So how much older are you and your sister?
Yeah. So she's 11 years older than me.
Okay, so when
She's
you were like middle
25.
school, high school, she was grown. So okay, but
Yeah.
that's a big toll to
Still,
be
yeah.
like, whoa, I got to take care of my little brother. Like he's still in school. I got to provide. I got to make sure. So I know definitely shout out to her, but that definitely was difficult. So you finished high school. Did you go to college? What was the next steps after high school for you?
Yeah. So for me, I was going down the path of construction. So in Hawaii, a lot of people go the path of construction. And so I joined the Carpenters Union right out of high school. They sent me to school part-time, and then I had a job immediately. So I helped build houses in Hawaii for about 6 years. And during that time is also the time I picked up a heavy drinking habit, and as well as smoking towards the latter end of that career. But drinking, I became a heavy drinker around that time.
Mm. So do you think you were a drinker because of just working, going through, or was it because your dad was a drinker?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of those things, right? So my father, alcoholic for sure. Maybe seen him do that a lot after work. All the people I worked around, they did the same. We would meet up after work and then drink on the weekdays, and then weekends get together with all your friends, drink some more. So there was kind of a lifestyle thing. And so again, trying to fit in and be a part of, the pack and the crew. But at the same time, there was also part of me probably doing it to relieve stress and trauma from childhood.
Understand. Because yeah, sometimes we think smoking, drinking, it gets the job done, but sometimes it's like after you do that, it's like well, I still got the same problems. For me, I used to I used to drink like in high school. Well, high school kind of, college, I was a big drinker, and then when I became an adult, recently I just stopped drinking. Like I'll drink socially every blue often. I don't really go out to drink like that, but I don't really I never got into drinking like that because people in my family drunk. So I had alcoholics in my family. So I seen that growing up. It was like, nah, I kind of see what, my uncle own or my auntie own or whatever. And I'm like, that ain't really for me. I'm gonna leave that alone. And I kind of veered away from it. But I can understand like being a lifestyle, like in college, everybody drink, I'm like, okay, I'm catching up. but then it's like, I really don't like this. So
Right.
it's like you get to a point where it's like, okay, let me stop
Right.
for me. Because sometimes you get caught up in the we, and the
Right.
we is your friends and all that. And then it's like, that's not for me.
Right.
So you got the construction, you say you were drinking. Did anything like bad happen from your drinking, or was it just a social thing?
Yeah, I mean, so when I was 21, I got my first DUI.
Mm.
So that night, man, I had way too much, so to a point where I don't remember driving home, but I do remember getting pulled over, and I got pulled over like 20 yards from my parking stall. So I was about to be home, but they pulled me over right then, and they were following me for miles. So that was a big kind of wake up call for me to start drinking less, especially not when you're driving. But even on top of that, drink less. But then the following year, I got another one, and so um, more things started to happen to where I need to, like you said, get out of this cycle. I was stuck in a rut where I was just working, drinking, smoking, and there's nothing that was fulfilling me at the time.
Yeah, definitely. And I've definitely been there, like just being around people and been smoking and doing stuff of that sort. And it's like, this ain't really get me nowhere. It's
Yeah.
like, cause like when you grow up in like, I don't know if they call it the ghetto or the hood or
Yep.
whatever in
Yep.
Hawaii, but like that's what they call it here
Yep.
in Indianapolis or Indiana. I'm from up north in Indianapolis, but it's like you can get caught up in what's going on, and then you think that's the life that oh, let me just go get a job, work forever, get this pension and all that, and it's like this ain't really it is not really for me. So after those DUIs, after life then beat you up, smacked you like, hey, you gonna wake up, or are you just gonna keep on doing this? What changed? Did anything change, or did it take some more time? Did it take another hiccup? How did that go?
Yeah. So there was a time where I got laid off from work, and I got unemployment, and that was cool. But when I got laid off and I was unemployed, collecting unemployment, the drinking increased, hanging out with the boys and partying and smoking increased because I didn't have anything else to do with my time. And so, about a year of that, at the end of that year, I started thinking to myself, like, man, a lot of my friends are starting to build a family. Some of them got married, some of them got kids. So now it's just me and these boys that are doing the same thing over and over every single day, which is fine. But in my heart, I felt I wanted to do more. I was like, there has to be something else, because I'm not ready to start a family right now, but I feel like I can do more with my life. So then I went to go visit my sister in San Diego. She had moved out there several years prior to feeling like this. So, not having her around, my parents still being drug addicts, my two brothers not really in my life. I didn't have any real support. And so it was easier for me to just follow the crowd and follow what all the other boys are doing. But something just told me, go visit her. You haven't seen her in a few years. Just check it out. And maybe you might like it up there, and maybe we can start a new chapter out there.
Mm. That definitely, man, we got somewhat of a similar kind of like story per se. So I remember moved from college, and that's when I moved. I would stay in Indianapolis, but I was staying on like my buddy couch. We're hanging out. I just couldn't get a job. Like he was working, he was struggling, and I remember we had went home, and his dad's the pastor, and his mom spoke that day. It was women. I don't know what it was, but she spoke, and she said something. It's like restart. So I moved back home, and I started saving money, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna move here. And I didn't end up moving where I wanted to, but I moved with my cousin back here in Indianapolis, and that kind of like kick started a new chapter. And it was like sometimes like starting over, people don't want to start over, but sometimes you need to start over. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like nothing tragic or anything. It's just like, man, I ain't nothing going on right now. I'm the same old, same old. And like you said, you seen your friends that had the energy that you wanted. Like, man, oh, over there, he get married, got a family, and the energy that you just accepted. You like, okay, let's continue drink, smoke, and it's like, no, I kind of like that over there. It looked kind of good, having a family, and that's kind of for me. Like, I started seeing people, and like, man, I kind of do want a family. Like, I always thought about it, but I'm like, I don't know. So you moved to San Diego. what happens? What
Yeah,
happens?
yeah. So I'm coming to San Diego. It's kind of like I left a pond and it came out to
Mhm.
an ocean, and it's kind of like that analogy with sharks. You put them in a tank, they only grow a certain size because the tank will limit their growth, and that's kind of what Hawaii was for me. I couldn't grow anymore, so I had to spread my wings. I came out here and I saw that there was way more opportunities. I mean, one is just being so much bigger than our tiny little island. Feeling the different energies of different people from all around the world. It's kind of like a mixing pot out here, or melting pot. And so people from all around, but I saw that there was way more opportunity for me to learn, grow, and just explore. There's more to the world than the tiny island that I grew up on, and I wanted to see it. So staying here for a month, I in that 1 month of visiting, I made a decision. I'm going to go back to Hawaii and save up for 1 year and then move out here. And so I'm going to have 1 more year in Hawaii. So I'm going to, have a good time, spend time with family and friends. But really, the goal is to be out here next year and begin a new chapter in my life.
I love it. I love it. I love how you said, all right, I gotta make a goal. I'm gonna go back to the crib, but I'm gonna make sure I'm saving, saving money. And that's sometimes you gotta make that sacrifice of that move. And then you gotta know like what a goal, like you said, the exposure. Like I don't think sometimes people, from where I'm from, Michigan City, they get stuck, or people live somewhere and they get stuck there and they've never been out that city, or they've never been out that state, and they don't know it's so much beautiful everywhere else, or somewhere else you can find beautiful, or you can find opportunity other places. And it's like you don't have to stay at home and with the same friends and the same family. You can go and find something different. So I commend you on that, because sometimes people will go home and be like, oh, I'm gonna just go back. That was cool. That was, I know I can go visit sis whenever I want to. But you was like, no, I really want to move out here. Like it's something different. I don't know what it is, but it's something different.
Yep.
So after that year, you move back. Do you have a plan, or do you just go out there with the money you got saved and like I'm gonna just find me a job and go from there?
Yeah. So initially the plan was I'm going to go out there, transfer to the Carpenters Union out there, and get work. Not knowing that they had the same problem here. Not as much work. So I'd be put on a list and be waiting for work. So as soon as I got here, I did that, but work wasn't coming in. And so I was still kind of in the old rut, just drinking every day with my brother-in-law, my sister, and then my neighbor. I started smoking weed with my neighbor, and we were smoking weed every day, drinking every day. I would go to the gym, and then look for jobs, but nothing was happening for me for like the first year or two. So it wasn't like I had this amazing transition and everything just fell into place. The first year or two was a little rough, especially like 2 months in, I got into a crazy car accident, which was one of those things like you just mentioned, like a near-death experience, where the truck was totaled. I was on the freeway going 65, 70 miles an hour. I got sideswiped, and my brother-in-law's truck started rolling off the freeway. And then that kind of really threw me for a loop and changed my perspective on everything for sure.
Yeah, yeah. When you have them near death experiences, that definitely. Hey, let me get my stuff together, because I almost just, I almost didn't make it, and I got some more stuff to do.
Yep.
So that definitely, everybody doesn't have to have a near death, but sometimes it's something major that happens, an accident, you get sick, somebody passed away, whatever it is, something, life will hit you and wake you up, and
Right.
it's like you either gonna wake up or you gonna go into a rut.
Right.
So you said it kind of woke you up. So after those first 2 years, was it like, oh, I'm gonna give up, or it's like, okay, let me change up the plan and try something different than staying and being a carpenter?
Yeah. So that did kind of redirect where I was heading. So there was a lot of events that happened after that car accident. Two cars behind me was a man who was a retired Marine and police officer who's also from Hawaii originally. And he told me, I've seen a lot of accidents in the 20 years I was a police officer in San Diego, but never one like yours. And someone just step out with no injuries like you did. So he was like, I was for sure, I knew for sure that someone was really hurt, badly hurt or possibly dead with the way your accident looked like. So he's like, I believe angels, was definitely watching over you. You have something, there's a reason you're still here, and you need to discover that on your own. And so that got into my head, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. 2 weeks later, two of my best friends from high school was caught in an explosion at their job, and didn't make it. So that hit me even harder. I was like, man, two people my age, my best friends, gone within a second. And so even more, I was like, man, it's not a coincidence. These things happen, and like you have two choices. You can go down the road of, anger, frustration, sorrow, and like just keep beating yourself up and blame life for everything, or you can take the path of, I'm going to make every day and every moment count. Their deaths is not going to be for no reason. Like, I want to make them proud. I want to make their family and friends proud. I want to, really make the best out of it, because they were. But from there, I decided, what else? What else do I want to do? And what came to mind was be a firefighter.
That kind of like crazy. You almost die, and then two of your closest friends pass away. I know that hits definitely different. When it's like your friends and people your age, you're like, man, I'm kind of young. Like, what the heck, So I definitely known people to pass. Somebody recently that I went to high school with just passed away, and I'm like, man, that's crazy when you think of it, because it makes you look at your life a little different because of how young I am and how young you were. So how does being a firefighter go for you?
So in the beginning, a lot of people were telling me, oh, it's competitive. California is really hard to find positions, and if they'll even choose you, even if you pass all the tests. So what that did for me at that time in my life is it caused me to level up on my physical health, mental health, and all that stuff. So when I kept hearing that, I decided I'm going to become in the best physical shape I can, to have as many advantages as I can to become a firefighter. And the whole thing about a firefighter was, at the time, my belief was firefighters help people, and I want to help people. That was it. That was all I knew about it. But at that time, I was like, I'm going to quit drinking, I'm going to quit smoking, and I'm even going to try a vegetarian diet, all at the same time. And I started telling people that, and they're like, "You're crazy." They're like, "Why would you do that?" And so I did it all at once. And I mean, 30 days went by, and I felt way better. Then I was like, why am I going to go back? I'm going to keep doing this, because I saw results that I couldn't have imagined physically, mentally, emotionally. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this. I like this. And that eventually led me down a different path. I didn't even become a firefighter.
That that's it's funny, because sometimes it's not about the destination, it's about the process.
Yep.
So you leveled up in a way to get you set up for something else. You were going for a certain goal, but you knew you had to work on your physical health. You knew you had to stop drinking, stop smoking. You knew all these different things, and that led you to be a better person. And throughout that, you got to, what did you do? Like, so you didn't become a firefighter. What was the next step after you worked on your personal development and you leveled up?
Yep. So what I found was, these things that I did for myself, it needs to get to other people. Other people need to know about this. Because if it changed my life that much in 30, 60 days, then I need to be sharing it. I don't think firefighters they don't really do that. I started to think about it more and more. I was like, firefighters, when they show up, what's really happening on the scene? Usually somebody's almost dead, or they're dead. So I'm like, that to me, it didn't seem as efficient. Like, there has to be another way. So as I was finishing up my EMT course, there was a statement in the textbook that said, rarely today does anyone die of old age, like of a natural death. Majority of deaths are not natural. And I was like, man, I never really thought about that. So you're telling me almost nobody dies in their sleep just because they're too old. They're just really old. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's look into things that I can do that will help increase the amount of people that just die because of natural age, and lower the risk of all these other deaths. So I found out about a lifestyle school that will teach you how to be a lifestyle coach, to help you with your diet, exercise, anxiety, stress, addictions, just being a lifestyle coach. So I did that. I went through a 4-month course to become a lifestyle coach.
I love what you said when you wanted to you got the results and you like, man, other people need this. Because sometimes people can be selfish and be like, oh, I got this. Be like, man, how did you lose weight, or how did you get this, or I just worked out or whatever. But like you were like, no, I'm gonna go help some people. And then even people was like, man, you crazy? You gonna stop drinking, stop smoking? What? And all like, and just how you said you know, it's another way. Like, okay, do I want to be a firefighter really? Because I could go in there and die like on the first try. I don't know. And that's crazy that that part in the book like registered to you about the deaths, because like you saying that you want to lower deaths, like I've heard a lot of people talk to a lot of people, but that's rarely what you hear somebody say. It's like, oh, to better somebody, to help them do this, but you said to lower deaths. Like, no, we're not gonna have people just,
Yeah.
So you become a lifestyle coach. How does it go for you? What's the next step after you get after your 4 months?
Yeah. So after the 4 months was over, the funny thing about leveling up is every time you level up, you're able to see further down your path as far as where you want to go. But until you level up, you can't see so far down the path. Kind of like a stairway. When the stairway is lit, but only you can only see a couple of steps. And until you take those couple steps, you won't be able to see any further. And so when I did that level up for the course now it's for the lifestyle course, I leveled up even more. I was able to take everything I learned into the church I was attending. I was a health evangelist for the church I was attending. So I spoke at different churches in the communities. They sent me to the Philippines on a mission trip where I educated people out there on health. And I just started pushing all the health benefits of all these things on social media. I started, becoming an influencer with health on there. But literally the day I come back from the course, or like a month or two after that, my father has a heart attack. And everything I learned at that course was there right at the right moment, because we took him to the doctor and they said he needs 2 stents put in. We're going to send him home. He has type 2 diabetes. All of these things we didn't know. And I mean, we had an idea, but he has to go home with 9 pills every day and 4 shots of insulin. And I saw the look on his face when we had to do that day in and day out. And I told him, look, I went to that school for this reason. And if you're willing to give these things a try, I can help you take less pills and not have to do these shots every day. So I put him on a plan, walk the dog every day. Here's the new diet. And just make a few small lifestyle changes. And within 3 to 6 months, we took him for his checkup and all his levels were lowered. And they were able to take him off. Instead of 9 pills, he went down to 3. And instead of 4 shots of insulin, he didn't have to take any shots every day. He would just take a pill, because everything changed in that 3 months just from walking and eating better. And that was just proof. I was like, man, why don't more people know this stuff? I didn't have to get a college degree to learn that and then teach it to my dad. And my dad, it wasn't like pulling teeth. We just added some vegetables, added some fruits, and a walk. Like, it's very simple. And so at that point, I wanted to get that out to as many people as possible. And I continued to do that.
That's crazy that it took, because the story of your dad, and then it took for him to have a heart attack, to him to because sometimes that when people have a heart attack and get cancer, you gotta take this, you gotta do this, and it actually makes it worse on the person. And sometimes it takes somebody else like, hey, just try this out. I mean, hey, what's the worst that can happen? You still got to take all those pills, but let's just try this out and see. And he was willing to try it out, and that and then you were able to have him as like your first coaching client, really. Like, and that was great that it was your dad. So now you know exactly what to do. You made a plan for him. It was simple. So after that, does your coaching, like, does it get rolling, or you just get a couple more clients? How does that go for you?
Yeah. So what ended up happening is, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, started to show me that you don't have enough skill set yet and experience for this to really get big. So I continued to coach here and there. I continued to speak at different churches and whatnot. But ultimately, where I am now, a lot of what I've learned is from the solar industry, solar sales industry. So in 2014, I was recruited to work for a solar company, knocking on doors and educating homeowners about different solar programs. And it's in that career where I learned a lot more about communication, about helping people understand why this is important for them, and really building connection and trust so that I can then coach them.
Mm, that's that's dope. You don't really, hear about solar. So tell me a little more, like, kind of like, you don't gotta go deep into it, but like, what kind of is solar like selling solar,
Sure.
or
Yeah.
however you would say
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So in the beginning, my first year, I would just knock on doors, talk to homeowners, and say, "Hey, we're just out here talking to homeowners about different programs that exist that can help you go solar without paying any money out of pocket, and your payments for the solar will be lower than what you're paying the utility company." And so for me, the biggest thing I got out of that is I had to go through tons of rejection. So knocking on doors is not easy, but what it did do is it helped me become mentally stronger and not to take rejection personally and not have a fear of failure. Because if I feared failure and rejection, I wouldn't have been able to help all the homeowners that I have helped over the years and build all the skills that I now have by putting myself in that position day in and day out.
Understand. I used to sell Kirby vacuums, so
Okay.
that I know about the knocking doors and getting rejected and all that different stuff. That definitely does help, especially with sales, and with sales, like, that helps in other areas in life. Like, because I learned to ask questions, like, you ask questions to get the answers kind of that you want when you're doing sales. So you can, that's the same thing. You ask the right questions and get the right answers out of people when, it's kind of a cheat code, per se, but it works out. So you're working a solar company, and you're doing good. So what's next with that? Do you keep doing it? You keep just, doing the sales and doing coaching, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, so first year of solar, at the end of the first year, I became the manager of that company. So a lot of the guys that were teaching me and performing on a higher level, I started to perform at the same level and higher than some of them, just because I put in more hours. So I knew I didn't have the same talent and skills that these guys had. They've been knocking doors all their life. Some of them are Mormons and they grew up knocking doors, so they were just talented, really good at it. So I just put more hours in, and then at the end of that year, I became their manager. But from there, a couple years later, after managing for a couple years, I decided to start my own solar sales company where I called solar companies up and said, "Hey, I have a sales force. We're going to bring sales to your company. We're looking for installers to install our projects." From there, I branched out, I built the company out where now we can install nationwide. We're partnered with installers all throughout the United States, and we can help homeowners nationwide. So that's the business that I started back in 2018. And it went on pause during quarantine, but I turned it on back this year, and we're rebuilding it again.
I love what you said, man. I don't think people caught that. You said you put in more hours.
Yeah.
You knew they were more talented. They had the experience. They were already at a level that you weren't at, but you put in more hours. And that's the difference between a Steph Curry and somebody else. He puts in more hours.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
a difference between, Tom Brady and other quarterbacks.
Yep.
He couldn't. Tom Brady was slow. Nobody. Okay, you was cool in college, but you're gonna sit on this bench, and then he just put in the hours. You got to put in the work to get there, and then you didn't just say, "Oh, I just came manager." Like, I became their manager. And then you said, "Oh, I just started my own company." Oh, wait a minute, sir, you just started. Most people get in the company and they rolling. They might go to manager, might, go to the regional manager, district manager, but you said, "No, I'm gonna just start my own company." Like, what made you want to start your own company just from working there a few years? Like, what was that?
Yeah. So there was a transition. There was a time when that company, they had a merger, but essentially they were bought out. So they had that merger, and during the merger, a lot of things started to change. And I didn't like the changes. I didn't like that it became more limited for my ability to serve the customers. So I started looking for different options. There was one of my coworkers, he had his own company that eventually I started my own with. So I went to work with him, and they quickly showed me that, like, I can pretty much do this. I can do what they're doing. And one of my reps that I've trained, he went along with me, and he was like, hey, let's just do our own thing. He's like, you know enough to build all of this stuff out. It's not that hard. So he gave me that push. I just needed that encouragement. My wife was very supportive. She was like, yeah, you can do this on your own. And from there, I just stepped out and I was like, yep, we're going to do this. I'm confident in myself, confident in the product and service, and I believe I can do this. But that came from, I believe, I came from several years of self-development, listening to a lot of different content from different people, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, a lot of people, just hours and hours of it. Whenever I'm driving out to the field to knock doors, I'm listening to podcasts and just filling my mind with all this stuff that's building my confidence and my skills. So that's why I was so confident early on for me to make that jump, because I've been downloading tons of content over the years that I felt confident enough to do it.
I love that, man. You said, I ain't like to change. Well, and some people don't like to change, but they'll stay.
Yeah.
And then they'll complain and they'll just stay. And it's like, hey, now, not saying everybody can, just go start their own company, but you could go somewhere else. You could do something else. You don't gotta, if you don't like to change, you don't gotta stay there.
Yep.
And that's not just for a job. That's for anything, a relationship, anything. If you don't like it, and you can see that you can't grow from it, do something different. And you said, okay, I'm gonna check out Buddy. All right, wait a minute, I can do this by myself. Hey, okay, hey, honey, what you think about me? Doing this on my own? Yeah, go ahead. And what you said is, again, putting in the hours of self-development. It really, like, you could have not took no notes, but the thing is, you were feeding your brain to get that confidence and have all the things that you needed to say, let me start a company. I let me see what this does. I kind of know how to do everything like everybody else. I'm going to put in the work, obviously, and see how that goes. And then you said, COVID hit, and I think with COVID, it's either if you had a business, it kind of hit you, or you like your business went crazy, like high, or people started business. So I started a business during COVID. So I know how COVID can have its ups and its downs, but then you said, all right, COVID's over, back rolling. So how is it going for this year, and how is the coaching going? Like you still coaching throughout the, being in the solar company, having your own company. How does that work? You got your own company and you still a coach.
Yep. So after being in the solar industry for this long and learning everything I learned, being in sales, I decided I also wanted to add being a mindset coach for the solar industry. So my main clients are salespeople in the solar industry, but I can definitely help anyone that's trying to better their life, starting with their mindset. I just recently kind of stepped into that more full time. As far as my company, I've recruited several people that are aligned with my beliefs and how we want to run things, and we're building, and that's doing good. But solar has now become my part-time and coaching more full-time. There was this transition period for about a year. I was kind of doubting, or I was kind of scared to make the jump from full-time solar. This is where all the money comes from. Coaching, there's no money coming in from it yet. So to make that jump was a little scary. So it took me some time to get into the place where I was confident enough to make the full jump. And that was about a month ago, where I decided, you know what, I'm going to put it out there, let everybody know I'm now accepting clients, because people have been following me in the solar industry for several years because of all the free content I've put out. And now I'm ready to coach people one-on-one and coach companies as a team. But it's been doing good. I took the leap of faith, and what happened was everybody on social media started to respond, and a lot of people were saying, you're perfect for this, and you've been helping people for so long, and it just helped reestablish my confidence in what I've been doing the whole time, the plan and everything. So it's not like I'm not scared of doing different things. You're always going to have that moments of fear right before the next level. So it was time to level up, but I had to go through that walking myself through the doubts and the fears and saying, no, it's going to be all good. Just take the step, next step.
Man, I love that. Like you said, it was just like you was playing double dutch, and it's like skip it. I'm gonna just jump in, take this leap of faith because you already took the leap of faith by moving to San Diego. By let me be a firefighter. No, this sounds like you already took those leaps. And sometimes I think we forget the leaps that we take. Like even as a kid or as an adult, we already took the leaps. It's like this is just a new leap to take. It's not nothing different than anything else. Like you said, when you level up, things get a little more challenging. You get more uncomfortable as you keep leveling up. It's like, okay, I'm good now. Dang, I gotta do this. Oh my good. And it's like, yeah, if you want to, be that person, to be a great person, be a successful underdog, you got to take those leap of faiths and understand that each level you got to level up. You can't be 35 and be 45. You got to be 45 and be 45. Right. So, and I love that you said, I'm gonna be, you've been putting out the content though. That's the thing. Sometimes people don't realize, because what you say you put out free content. So all that free content you got, now people like, oh yeah, let me check out what you got. Now people gonna check you out, and you can, I got a webinar, I got this, and now you're getting clients because people already know what you're about. So like for me, I put out videos, and I'm putting out videos. It's like that one video might get it, or somebody like, hey, I like what you're talking about. Can you come speak at the school, or whatever the case may be? Or, hopping on somebody's podcast, or somebody like, hey, I seen you on such and such podcast. Yeah, you want to come work? I want to work with you, or whatever the case may be. But just by you putting out that content helped you. So before I get into like the 3 tips. So when you were putting out your content, so you're putting out content on social media, you got your company and your coaching. How did doing the content, were you just putting out videos, or was it I almost messed up the word strategic, like what you were doing? Or you were just, all right, I'm gonna just put this out just to get it out? Or was it like, okay, I'm gonna put it out to have an end goal of what I'm putting out?
Yeah, so in the beginning stages, I learned a lot from Gary Vee, and he talks about just document, right? You're just documenting the process, documenting your life. What are you doing on a daily basis? Share tips that help you, share your struggles, just share your life, and be transparent. Show people like this is how it is. It's not perfect every day, but these are the things that I do when things get hard. And so that's the kind of content I've been putting out. It's like, I'm doing this, I have this sale here and this one canceled, and I share all the experiences that I go through, and I share with people how I get through those experiences and what's helped me. And what's been happening through the years of creating content is I'm figuring out my style as a coach. I'm also figuring out what people like to hear most from me. So I never try to post to get likes and engagement. I post a variety types of posts to see what they want the most, because I want to give them value that will help them level up. And so the 3 E's, or actually 5 E's, that I use for social media is every post needs to have one of the 5, or all 5 if you can. But educate, entertain, engage, use empathy, and empower. If you can empower someone with your post, if you can show empathy with your post, if you can entertain them, engage them, and educate them, then it's going to be a good post, because you're going to hit somebody at the right time when they pop on. That's what they needed to see. It could be helping them with something they're going through in their life right now. Like, that's the type of post I want to put out every time. And then that's the results I've been getting. People comment and message me all the time saying, man, you posted that at the right time. Thank you for posting this. And like, just get, like Gary Vee does, give out the free content. Because in the long run, it's an investment. I'm investing into people. And yeah, like you said, when it comes time, hey guys, I need your support. My coaching program is out. I got the gratitude mindset swag out, like all that stuff. The content has been working as long as I always have those people in mind, how I can help someone. It always pans out.
I love that, because you just helped me out a little bit, because I'll be like, when you put out stuff, you overthink.
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, this person does this person, and it's like, you don't look at other people, just be yourself, because you're your original. Like, when you're your original self, people gonna like you. Yeah. And I like what you said. You share your life, you share all your experiences. I share experiences, I don't share all, but I should share more, because like when you're transparent and then you're like, okay, this happened, and people are like, dang, that's messed up. But then you like, okay, this is what I did. They're like, okay, I've been in a situation, so let me try that. So you basically were coaching people without coaching them, because like you said, you educated, entertained, engaged, empathy, and empower. And those are things that I do. I like to laugh, so I'll throw a joke or change up. I might dance or do something. And when you're a speaker, you gotta. I'm an educator myself, so I educate on a daily basis. So that's easy to educate, and then just empowering people. I think sometimes we don't realize how opposed, no matter what the like is, as long as one person, it helped one person.
Yep.
Of your video, of your quote, whatever, if it helped one person, you did something.
Yep.
So that's how when I first started speaking, that's what someone told me. Just speak to one person. When you're in the crowd, just look at one person. And shout out to Gary Vee, because Gary Vee definitely is himself. Like,
yeah.
Like, what you speaking? You cuss? When I heard him, I was like, ooh, myself. Like, 'cause I cuss, and I'm like, I don't cuss like when I'm teaching or anything, but I just cuss, like, that's just kind of the nature of my conversation. Sometimes I throw cuss words.
Yeah.
And it was like, I can do that? and people like it. I was like, oh. And then Eric Thomas, I can wear Jordan. Well, I don't wear Jordan. I can wear gym shoes and a hat, and I can speak, and I can make X amount of dollars. Oh, okay. And I think when you see people like those guys and other speakers be themselves, or just other people be themselves, because like you name what, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rome, Les Brown, those are three wonderful, great, amazing speakers, but they're all different.
Right.
They're all different. So you can be yourself in whatever you do. You don't got to be a coach. You don't got to be a speaker. Whatever you do, be yourself. When I'm a teacher, I'm myself. I'm definitely different than all they singing the old songs. I'm turning on the YouTube with the old songs, but with the new hip hop beats. And the kids like, oh, that's my song. But they learning. They don't even understand that they learning, but they learning. So just be yourself when you're doing that. And you help me out with the video part of it. So I always ask my guests to give 3 tips. I would say give 3 tips on someone stuck, someone kind of going through what you were going through in your time when you were like moving from Hawaii to San Diego. Like, I want something different, but it ain't working. Give them 3 tips that they can use tomorrow, because we're recording the day before. So tomorrow, when they listen to it, or whenever they listen to it, what they could do to help them get out of that situation per se.
Yep. So number 1 for me, so my brand is the gratitude mindset. And essentially, I tell everybody, you need to make gratitude part of your daily practice. And not just the general, I'm grateful for life, grateful for my health, for my family, but an actual practice. So what I do is 5 minutes every day, at least, I'll create a list whether in my mind or on paper. I'm writing all the things I can think of that I'm grateful for. And I try to get specific, like, what challenges am I grateful for right now in my life? What are, who am I grateful for in my life? And I just do that in different ways. And what that does is it creates a neural pathway of gratitude in your brain, so that now that's a new habit, so that if something happens in life, you can look at it from the perspective of gratitude and say, okay, this thing happened that I didn't really like or expect, but how can I look at it in a way that makes me grateful? Because there's something there. So that's the first thing, is get grateful every day. It's going to raise your vibration. And when you're on a higher frequency emotionally, there's more solutions on higher frequencies than there are on lower frequencies. So if you feel scared, stressed, anxious, you're not going to find the answer in that frequency. So you have to raise your frequency through gratitude. Second tip would be, you need to have a solid morning routine. If you wake up every day and you're not happy every morning, then you need a morning routine. Because number 1, I'm excited to do my morning routine. The way I set it up, I'm excited to do those 4 things that I do every morning. And when I'm done, I feel great. No matter how I woke up, I'm going to feel good when I'm done doing those 4 things, which a lot of times takes me about 20 minutes. So get your morning routine locked in, because essentially you're filling up your cup for the day. And you can't help anybody from an empty cup. So you need to make sure you fill that cup up, spend that time with yourself. Now that you've done that, the rest of your day is spent pouring your cup out with your family, and then others. That's for your career. So you're making an impact in other people's lives, first your family, and then those outside of your family. But you can't do that if your cup is not full. And then the third thing I would suggest is tracking. So you want to track your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions on a daily basis. You know, you can just write on a piece of paper, thoughts, emotions, actions, and write whatever comes to your mind. I had some negative thoughts today. What were they? Write it down. I felt some negative emotions. I felt some positive emotions. But you need to track these things because on a daily basis, you're thinking, majority of the time, you're thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and taking or not taking the same actions. So you need to change that, but you can't change it if you're not aware of the patterns that exist right now. So you'll track it. You can't improve anything you don't track. So you're going to track.
I love it. I love the first part because that's the gratitude. I was just having a conversation with my mom about that. She was like, "Yeah, I got a gratitude." She was like, "I write 5 things down every day," and I'm like, "I need to get on that," because I heard Oprah. I don't know what I was watching or listening to. I think I was listening to something, and she was on part of the clip, and she was like, she's had a gratitude journal. That's one thing that she's been consistent on and helped her throughout life and helped her change life. So that's one thing that I would say definitely do, and definitely something I'm working on. And then you said have a solid morning routine. That's definitely true. When you are consistent morning routine and you're doing the same thing, you look forward to, oh, I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that, and it just helps you. So definitely get a solid morning routine. And you said track. I thought sometimes people would think of tracking their money, something of that sort. Track your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. Yep. And it's really journaling. It's just journaling. Yep. What happened that day? Why did you feel that way? Because I went back to journal and I was like, man, I was having some shitty times, but I got through that and I looked at it like, okay, wonder why that's why I was feeling like that. Okay. So now if it happens, I don't feel that way. So those are definitely 3 great tips to help people. So before we get into your links, how people can reach out to you, I always ask for underdog quote. That could be anything. That could be a quote you got. That could be a quote you heard, whatever the case. But some quote you want to give somebody that can help them?
Yeah. More recently, I've liked this quote that I kind of came up with, and it's what you appreciate appreciates. So whatever you're focusing on and giving appreciation, it will grow, it will expand, it will appreciate. And then that's what I found with my practice with gratitude over the last 3 years is all the things that I specifically show appreciation for in my life has only grown and gotten better. So be grateful for the money you have. It may not be a lot, be grateful for it. You make a purchase on a daily basis, say thank you. Every time you make a purchase, say thank you for that money you had to make that purchase. But you're getting into that habit of appreciating every single thing you currently have in your life. When you mentioned Oprah, she says, when the more you're grateful for what you have, the more things you will have to be grateful for. So, I mean, yeah, just appreciate what you appreciate appreciates.
Well, I wish I would have saved that part for the end so I could have just said peace, one love. But before we get out of here, because that was definitely a mic dropper, what you appreciate appreciates. And it's simple. When you appreciate whatever it is, it appreciates you. It's simple, but it's really deep.
Yeah.
How can people reach out to you? How can people, get in contact with social media, all those good things?
For sure. Yeah. You can search me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube with my name, Earl Kapule. And then on Facebook, we do have a group and a page, The Gratitude Mindset. We have a page and a group for that as well.
All right. And if you want to be a guest, if you want to comment, anything, Underdog Talk Podcast on Instagram, on Facebook, on your favorite podcast platform, Underdog Talk Podcast at gmail.com. If, like I said, you got comments, if you want to be a guest, if you just want to, maybe you didn't figure out how to reach out to the guest, you want to, talk to the guest, whatever. That's how you can reach out to me. Again, Earl, I appreciate you. I appreciate your story. I appreciate you being transparent and then helping and showing people that just because things happen to you don't mean it's the end of the road, don't mean like you got to stop, you got to be settled. You know, the environment might not be great, but you still can be great. So I appreciate you, and I thank you for coming on the show and being very valuable and adding knowledge, not just to the guests, but also to myself.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate you too.
All right, and on that note, peace, one love.